Now my
Okay then. That's what I'll do. I will tell you a story.
Much of theology is boiled down, I believe, to stories and how we tell those stories. It's about how the world is, how as individuals we could be the smallest things, so minute, so unimportant, and yet the vastness and the greatness and the enormous amount of the world reminds of us how important we are as beings and as people. So I am going to do this project as telling stories because I believe that theology, and in order to construct my theology, I must really tell a story and weave together who I am, who I believe that I am to be, how I came to be, how I came to exist, what my purpose in this world is, why there is evil, why there is good. Basically, the way in which I construct my theology boils down to stories. So that's what I would do. I would tell you a story. I have often tried to express or explain and articulate the role in which Jesus plays in my theology as a non-Christian, but as a Jewish person. Jesus' role is not really big in my theology at all. It's he's in many ways irrelevant to my theology, and many folks, when I say this, say, "Well, wasn't Jesus Jewish?" And yes, Jesus was Jewish, and in that sense, that role that Jesus has as a Jewish man, I suppose that his role was just as significant as any other Jewish man, but not as significant as the rabbis of old, the rabbis that wrote the Talmud, who. So, I've thought about this question a lot and tried to figure out how to answer who plays that role, and is there a central figure that plays the role? And I think the answer is yes and no. I think in some ways Elijah, the prophet, is not seen as God, is seen as a prophet, but is seen as one who brings about peace, and we do things. We set an extra plate out for Elijah, during Pesach, and an extra glass and an extra chair, and in Jewish tradition, oftentimes people talk about doing things because we don't know the next person to us might be Elijah, or we don't know if the person being born is Elijah, and we'll bring in the Messianic age. And so, in that way, I suppose Elijah would be that role. But also, I do want to point out that after the destruction of the temple, much of Judaism, tradition, and of theological understanding is some of not all of it, but some of it is antithesis to Christianity. And so, in that way, the role that Jesus plays in Christianity has impacted the role in which has impacted the direction in which my theology has taken. The role of the community. So, what role does the community play in my theological understanding? And I'm substituting the word community for church, as well as synagogue. So I will use the word community synagogue instead of the word church as opposed in the actual question. And really, especially in talking about the role of community in my theology, and I'm focusing on the theology of conversion, in particular in the process of conversion, and those theological nuances. And so, for me, I think community plays an important role in many aspects. But first, I want to talk about stories and talk about community. For me, I found myself a part of a community well before I even considered being a part of a religion or a part of the religion of that particular community. When I found myself in this community, I began to find myself realizing that it was bigger than a community, and that the synagogue extended beyond that, that it was in many aspects a family, and that the way in which we treated each other was like a family, more than a community. And that was something that I had not seen before, at least felt before. It was more than just a community in the sense that we did things together, but it was in a sense of a family, and partially probably because some of the communities I'd been part of before wasn't as intergenerational, and didn't have as many children or as many elderly or definitely not as many young adults involved. And so part of it was that I found myself being able to be a part of a community, and I found the importance of the community and the synagogue and a way of raising each other's children together. I love children, and that important role that I found myself in this community and in this family, being able to be around the youth and the kids, and being able to be a role model and make a difference, I think is essential. So the role the community plays in the synagogue and the role of the synagogue within the theology, I think, is of the utmost importance. I think of how important the survival of the Jewish people is, and how important the family is dressed. I think, the Jewish people have spent so much time, and most of our holidays are actually about the attempt of others to wipe the Jewish people out. And so in that way, family is so important. And it's not necessarily about a bloodline, it's about or the continuation of a tradition. When a person converts, they are not just made a commitment to a religion and to follow God. They are making a commitment to become a part of a people, to become a part of a family, to raise their children as a part of that people and as a part of a family. We know that Ruth, when she followed Naomi, she said that your people will become my people, your God will become my God. Wherever you go, I will go. And that notion of becoming a family, becoming a part of a community, not just becoming an individual, not just making a personal commitment to make a personal relationship with something, but making a commitment to a community, making a commitment to be a part of a people, to follow that people, to be a part of that family. And that's not always easy. And that's the thing about family and community. And that's the truth about anything. There is no perfect family, there is no perfect synagogue, there is no perfect community. But together, as community and as family, we make mistakes, and we learn, and we grow, and we fight, and we cry. We celebrate, and we mourn together. And in many aspects, that is why I believe community plays a bigger role, a more important role when we talk about eschatology and the afterlife or the ending. I am so strongly convinced that as a community, it is so important that the Jewish community is working toward tikkun olam, working toward repairing the world. Some say that when everyone celebrates Shabbat, 2 consecutive Shabbats in a row, that it will bring about the Messianic age, and that within itself is about community. That within itself is not just about of one particular community, though, but it's about everyone being able to rest and breathe and relax and study and learn and grow, participate together. And in that aspect, there is no other. There's all of us, and there's we. But the community, the synagogue. So the synagogue is not. I don't believe is essential to the Jewish survival. I don't think the synagogue is essential to my theological understanding. But the people are, and the community is, and the synagogue is where we grow together as a community, as well as in the homes, as well as around the table, around a community in a park or at a beach where some friends have candles and a glass of wine and bread, and bringing the Shabbat together. And in that way, as a community, we are bringing in a peaceful moment and acknowledging the end of a week. But we're doing something much more. We're becoming community. We are establishing familiar ties and family ties and growing together and loving each other and being who we are and what we are, and in many ways helping bring about a repairing of the world.